Good morning. Welcome back to Day to Day. I'm Greg Michelson, and I'm here with my good friend Tom Coyle, back from the DataRobot days. Another of the fellow fallen comrades, as it were. And Tom, it's great to see you. We haven't talked in ages. I'm looking forward to catching up.
Yeah, likewise, Mike. In fact, the last time I came across you, I think I was participating virtually. It was the 2022 ODSC conference out west there.
Yeah, that sounds right. I actually just got back from ODSC.
Okay.
Zerv did in Boston, ODSC East.
Yeah,
Zerv
yeah.
did a datathon there. We had couple hundred people participate and use Zerv to do some really interesting work. We actually gave them a sample of data from our application and tried to do some user analytics on the data, and we got some really good sort of insights into how people interact with the platform. So it was a great time. Got to see Seamus.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't see anybody from DataRobot. I expected to see a bunch of people that I knew there, but there wasn't anybody there.
Well, it's interesting. So, I think the last guy I knew of that was still there was Jay Shuren. He finally moved on.
Jay left DataRobot?
He did. He's
Wow.
working. What's his name? Oh, I can't think of his name.
Mike Schmidt?
Not Mike Schmidt. The guy who was the lead investor of DataRobot
Oh,
does the
Chris Lynch is
capture
chairman of the board?
thing. Yeah,
Chris Lynch.
Chris Lynch. Thank you. There it is.
Yeah, good times. All right. Well, that's exciting. I guess Chris is still at scale. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought so. Cool. All right, awesome. Well, hey, enough about DataRobot. Let's dive in. For folks that aren't familiar with you, why don't you do us an intro? Kind of tell us where you came from and what you're working on now and all that kind of jazz.
Yeah, yeah. So, there's a loaded question for you. So we can expand on these things. I'll kind of do a touch the wave top so we can kind of dive into the various things. Graduated West Point in 1997. My first foray into predictive analytics started at a simulated counterinsurgency war at Joint Readiness Training Center in exotic Fort Polk. I was basically used manual data tracking where these mad mortarmen likely would be. And we were able to predict, hey, this guy's going to hit us again from about 3 o'clock over in this spot. And we set up a platoon to ambush. And sure enough, we were in place 2 hours beforehand. About 3 o'clock, he shows up with his mortars and we ambushed him.
No kidding.
So, yeah. And
Simulated.
what I was using is like,
Was it like a war game? Is that the idea?
that's a war game. We'd have these like military's got to come up with an acronym for everything. So it's like basically a modified laser tag type of system. So when you shoot your weapon, it also has a corresponding laser that goes with it and you get tagged and you hit that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
And they assess artillery casualties. Like I have an observer controller walk around saying, okay, you guys are in the blast area, you and you are dead, that type of thing. And I have like a little simulator goes off. And for the crater, when you can do a crater analysis, that's what I was doing is like the guy puts a cloth thing on the crater and he sets it up to where that basically you look at the size and the shape and say, okay, it's 81 millimeter mortar. It came from generally that direction right there. And then, okay, then it's like, well, the max range is like 6,000 meters. So where would I be if I was the guy setting this thing up? So you put a little inference on there. And then that's how I was actually triangulating that, thinking like, wow, this guy's falling into a pattern, as most people do. And yeah, we ambushed him. It's like if I had better compute power, I could have figured this out faster. This came up with a lifelong journey as me, the poli-sci major. Fortunately, at West Point, everyone graduates whether you want to be an engineer or not. If you're not an engineering major, you have to take a 5-course engineering sequence. So at least it makes you comfortable with technology. And that's been a sort of a mission of mine. And then I was in the Army for a few years, and then bounced. Then after the Army, had a little bit of a break at doing a traditional Northrop Grumman, and then got an opportunity to work at the
Did
CIA.
you say nutrition?
What's that?
You did nutrition for Norfolk Grumman?
No. I said what, I can't remember what did it is. That's a garble. I did not say nutrition. I think that's probably like hanging around waiting for a round for maybe I was there for more traditional like job Northrop. That's what I was saying. Northrop
Gotcha.
Grumman, project manager there. My application was in for the CIA, and then turns out I was accepted. So hey, okay, Northrop Grumman, I'm out of here. Going these guys. All my stuff has, State Department. I recently got approval about a month ago to actually say publicly I was CIA. So after I earned enough points to retire, all that type of thing. So I was there,
Okay.
kind of doing mostly operations and operations support work type of thing.
You're a
And
spy, basically.
yeah, and
That's about the size of it.
I mean, well, For those who might be from my organization watching, technically, I'm not the spy. What we do is recruit people who are in fact spies. So if I'm like, if you're Greg and you're working for some foreign entity, I'm trying to recruit you to give me information type of thing. And so you're the
Gotcha.
spy. I'm just the guy who controls the spy type of thing, the
I
guy
see.
behind the
It
guy, so to
happens.
speak.
Yeah, gotcha.
And there were days in my career where I felt like James Bond, and there's maybe a little too many more days where I felt like Peter from Office Space.
It's been too long since I've seen that. But
I keep watching clips all the time, and I was mostly a guy who would look through data to say, "Hey, this is the hey, like where can we maximize our impact? Like recruit this guy here or attack this computer network system." And occasionally, I did some case officer like work just on my situation because bosses let me. Those are the guys that actually recruit and handle, and I had some of those opportunities there just because they thought I was a guy who wasn't a complete idiot, and so they would let me just spread my wings as I could overseas. Um,
Now, as a my second son is at boot camp right now at Fort Leonard Wood.
oh yes,
He's joining the Army, and he wants to be a underwater welder for those guys. I wasn't aware that the Army did that. I thought that would for sure be Navy, but
they do, especially like inland, like rivers, like especially the Army Corps of Engineers, stuff like that.
right,
And
right,
fun
right.
little fact: the Army has more boats than the Navy and more aircraft than the Air Force.
Wow, that is a fun fact.
More aircraft, and
So, but you get into the Army, and you went to West Point, so you graduated, came in as an officer, and you've always seemed like you've had this love for data and analytics and analysis and that sort of thing. How did that work out with your, like when you first graduated from West Point and got into active duty? What kinds of applications did you find for that type of thinking?
so what was funny is there was really nothing, right? And we were just starting this with the so-called digital revolution. And I was fascinated because now what they had and so what they came up with. So when I was my first job in the Army, I was a fire support officer, which means I'm working with an infantry company. So I'm an Army captain attached to an Army lieutenant attached to an infantry company run by a captain. And I'm coordinating all this fire support. And my team of forward observers are farmed out to all the platoons. And so our job is to coordinate artillery fire, airstrikes, that type of thing. They came up with this digital computer that was supposed to help me, the fire support officer. The problem was it was bigger than a laptop, and I'm supposed to carry this thing around and send digital fires. Like, okay, well, this is a big flaw right now. And we were trying to take a
How big was it?
it was about the size of my MacBook Pro. I can't look it up for it, but like it's about
Gotcha.
MacBook Pro size.
Gotcha.
And it's supposed to be the port. Now that's great if you're inside an armored vehicle just supporting an armor unit, but then they turn on, here, light infantry guys, use this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's not exactly. We experimented with one of the guys. We bought a Palm, if you remember those things. So I've gone
Yeah,
really.
I had one. Yeah.
We were trying to figure out how we could make that same kind of device leveraging the Palm device, and making it like send a signal back. And we got to kind of talk, but we couldn't get it to actually process the information we needed. As in, bad guy over here, go shoot artillery over there. But that was kind of our early experimentation we were trying to do. Um, Another thing we did, this is where we were more successful. They came out with this a FATADS, Advanced Field Artillery Data Tracking System. There you go. And all these computers started to trigger. So I had as a captain, I commanded a Q-37 counterfire radar detachment. The idea that these radars point out there, and if you fire indirect fire, artillery or mortars, we can triangulate those rounds. So like basically a lot of times in conflict, we've had situations where we're firing our counter battery fire back at the bad guys before their rounds even impact. And one thing we had in the 101st Airborne Division, we had 105 millimeter howitzers because we had smaller howitzers being able to be carried by helicopters so we can like assault forward. So we couldn't have pieces that were very big. That of course limits range. And so in a lot of our wargaming scenarios we were doing is we found out, well, okay, we're fighting the North Koreans in a simulated war game. We're realizing our artillery organic to us couldn't hit. If I tracked them with a radar, I couldn't necessarily hit them. But then I realized, hey, what we do have in the 101st is attack aviation. So could we have our tracking system talk directly to the Apaches? And so we made the computer integration work. So when we tracked, as soon as we got a signal that artillery was firing, we sent the information to our friendly artillery. And if they couldn't hit it simultaneously, the Apache attack helicopters got it. So they could
Got it.
fly beyond the range and they could take it out too.
And this is out in the field, like in like
Oh, yeah,
real
yeah.
combat
We're
type
figuring this
situation.
and this was all domestic because this was before the war on terror years, but it was still, like, in training environments in the field, us just trying to figure this stuff out, and I really enjoyed it because it was all just coming up with well, okay, and because typically what happens is things they make, the manufacturer just didn't serve a foot someone who has to like walk everywhere. It just doesn't work that way. It's great if you're in a tank and you carry all kinds of crap. Not so good if you're just walking. It's kind of like when I went to sapper school in the Army. Sapper school, they teach how to make improvised explosives. Fun fact: famous graduate's a guy named Timothy McVeigh. So they're doing the whole in Full Metal Jacket. They go, "Where do these individuals learn to shoot? In the Marines." The guy's talking about Lee Harvey Oswald and a few other people. Well, we had that same moment. And where did this individual learn to make explosives? At the sapper school. But the reason we teach you to make that stuff is, again, you're a light infantry unit. You can't carry the stuff that's you can make a shape charge. The manufactured shape charge is like 60 pounds. Okay, that's fun. Carry that. You can make one that carries like maybe 15 pounds, does the same damage. Okay, I can carry that. You know,
Yeah.
uh,
Okay.
a lot of it was trying to make the so it was kind of neat trying to experiment with kind of stuff and experiment with like how could we use electronic devices to talk? And this is actually a pre-smartphone. I mean, Blackberries didn't even exist when we were trying to mess around with this kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that was really exciting in the Army to do that. And then when I was at Fort Bragg, I was in the special. I completed Special Forces Assessment and Selection. So that's the first fit. So basically, you go to selection and then you go to the Q course. Like basically, selection's the primary weed out process. Then you go to the qualification course, which is more of a
Or the CIA.
This was for Army Special Forces.
Oh, I see.
It was there I met a guy who I recognize I was at Fort Bragg and I ran into a guy and I used to work they're at the same bar and I said, "Hey, this is Colonel so and so about it and this is Tim." Like, who the hell is Tim? Found out so Tim would I later find out was the agency liaison there and he's like, "Yeah, I want you have you ever thought about working for us?" Huh. And I didn't make it through the Q course because in no small part, because I'm daydreaming about doing this other stuff as opposed to what I'm like walking around the backpack
What's a
in
Q course?
the Special Forces qualification course.
Oh, I see. I got you.
Walk in, setting up ambushes, a lot of I'm like, "God,
Gotcha.
man, what Tim's talking about, going to cocktail parties, wearing a tuxedo, that sounds better," and,
Sounds way better.
so, of course, I didn't make it to the Q course because my mind wasn't as focused as it should be, but that got me on the path to put my application in, that reconnect this guy, he helped this is what the application process looks like. Go in there and, here for a while, all of a sudden, "Hey, congratulations, you're hired." You went through a whole round of interviews and all that type of thing. You get the polygraph, which is, another fun experience there, and, then you just wait, like, "Yeah, congratulations, you're hired." Um,
Wow.
and
Okay, so what happened there? Data focus. So
yeah,
what kind
so
of
one
application
of the
are
things
we
about
working?
data is I was obsessed with patterns of things. Going back to remember the example of Mad Mortarman? What before I went to the combat training center to try to give some context, everyone's saying, "Oh, the Mad Mortarman, he's everywhere. You don't know where he's going to be next." I'm like, "Well, no, people have patterns. I use the analogy of if I'm teaching a class and I tell everybody to sit where they want on day one, on day two they're going to come back and sit in the same seats they sat on day one without me telling them or making them that type of thing. People get comfortable. They follow patterns, and so." One of the things is we were so we get the agency, the big focus, obviously, when I was there, where's Bin Laden? So, well, there's patterns we have to find. And my argument was because the big thing we were going in with is we sort of fell in this mentality that Bin Laden's in a cave. And I'm just being the stupid new guy going, "Yeah, and I'm in Afghanistan." Because, "Yeah, you new guy." So we think he's in a cave. Uh-huh. That he's on the move. He's going from cave to cave all the time. Uh-huh. That doesn't make sense. What do you mean it doesn't make sense? Well, okay. If he moves from cave to cave, every time he moves, there's a chance somebody goes, "Hey, that's $50 million sitting over there. Hey,
Mhm.
America, I want my $50 million. There he is." Like,
Yeah.
where he probably is somewhere like this is where I would hide. I'd find some friend who could hide me, just keep a low profile. He goes and gets some groceries. No one's going to notice that the guy's got a spike in groceries. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for something where like, where can it be? Where, something that's like big enough for like a big enough town where no one like, you don't want the small town where everybody knows everybody, but you
Mhm.
don't want too big of a town because that's just too much chaos.
Yeah.
And so what's that mid-sized town? And we started like wargaming this thing. I worked for the NGA guy. NGA, the guys do all the mapping thing. Like, what could be a town? We started wargaming the sizes and this kind of thing. And we went back to this and like everyone thought this data project was kind of stupid. Like, well, but like let's try to see the data. And so what we came back with, our thing that we wrote on, and this is like this, we kind of finished this toward the end of my tour. I said, okay, so we came up with something that said, okay, Bin Laden's in a town. We came up with all this stuff that we just were like, what would be a size? What would it have to be near? Like what kind? It had to have some kind of way to groceries. It had to have some infrastructure. Had to have something like that. He's got to have internet access. So okay, what does that look like? And we had
Mhm.
a list of 10 towns.
Yep.
Then I went off that kind of thing. One of the towns on the list was Abbottabad, which is where they eventually found him.
Right.
I have no idea what aspect. That's the one thing unique thing about the agency. I have no idea what part of the thing that it worked, did not work, that type of thing. Um, but like a lot of those things, it is a jigsaw puzzle. In the movies, it's about one person trying to find something, but it's really just taking all these little data points here, 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 and here. And one interesting thing, here's a data problem. I was interviewing a guy who helped them escape Tora Bora. They were out Tora Bora, and they
Who
said,
helped you escape to Bora Bora?
the whole they were in Tora Bora type of thing. That was the cave complex in Afghanistan.
I gotcha.
I was like, okay, well,
My
we're
Afghani geography is not what it could be.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like so what we did is we just said, "Okay, where is this guy? Okay. Yeah, okay." And they told me this guy, "Hey, look, if we can just find out what way they went, we could throw out 50% of our reporting and allow us to focus somewhere else." Okay. And so we got some information. Here's what we got. Okay, great. Now we can throw out all of this and only focus on this. So even like and I think it's a nice story because, like, did I find Bin Laden? No, but I did some things that helped solve the puzzle, and that's what real life is. In the movies, it's one guy who does everything or one gal who solves the whole thing. I refuse to watch Zero Dark 30 because apparently they make this one woman look like the rock star who did everything, when
Uh,
it's a team effort that spanned years to actually do this, and having my small part of that team, and all the data and analytics, and again a lot of stuff shaped how my latter career was, where I actually met Jeremy and that type of thing, is saying, this is all manual stuff we're all doing on Excel spreadsheets and taking this stuff and doing this. And like, where's some kind of a tool? Like if I had DataRobot's product with the auto ML and all these different sightings we had, we might have found him and other guys a lot sooner.
yeah, yeah. How did you meet Jeremy?
So funny story. A couple things went there. I was
Just for folks listening, Jeremy was the CEO of DataRobot at the time.
Yeah, yeah, thank you for that.
So
Yeah, we know they don't, they don't necessarily know. So right around when COVID hit, there was they had this, like, they're releasing, like, people had Data Robot accounts, and I had gotten one through, I can't remember who one of the salespeople who used to walk the hallways with us gave me an account to test drive Data Robot. Oh gosh, I can't think of her name. She was a real hard charger.
who's
What's that?
Aaron?
Yeah,
Aaron.
thank you. That was Erin. Uh-huh. And so I had an account, and like they're trying to process some of the COVID stuff. And I was trying to be a citizen data scientist. And then, Max actually attended one of my leadership. Max was his chief of staff. Attended I was doing this, like, I was doing these virtual leadership courses under my Adventure in Leadership brand, which is sort of a side business I had. And I formed that because I sort of thought maybe someday I'd be a leadership instructor, because or at least do a little bit of this, because I sat through some mid-management class, which was completely useless. It was like trying to learn how to change the oil of your car by watching a PowerPoint. I'm like, no, you gotta get your hands dirty. You gotta get, like at West Point, you were given leadership scenarios and having to lead people in these scenarios, and learn to lead. And you learn by doing. And so I wanted to kind of do something like that. And so I was doing this in a virtual thing. And so then they had the thing where we closed, which I was not part of the contract negotiations, but I was part of the AI office. I basically was, well, one of the things where the bureaucracy moved really fast. I was interested in working on AI. I was in the director of operations, like, no, no, you got to do operations work. And this guy who was charged by the agency to start up AI at the agency, who was had very senior, he wanted a DO rep who understood tech, who could actually serve as the referent for the director of operations, figure out what are the AI needs for us, who could actually talk to people and say, this is what I need to do my job better. And they said, "Oh, you?" Yeah. And so, like, within 2 weeks, I was pulled out of my job I was in, which I hated, into the job where in the AI office. And now we get the contract closed. I'm there. I meet Jeremy, and we figured out a couple things that, oh, wait, you're the guy that Max took your leadership class. Oh, wait, your user ID, whatever, and you've been doing some COVID. Oh, okay. Oh, let's talk. And then we talked. And then I get this, Tanya hits me up. Hey, Jeremy wants to have dinner with you or something like that. And we talk. And then, he's like, "Hey, I could use a guy like you. And how do you like being in government? And would you want to actually really change the world?" And of course, Jeremy, he's really good at selling a big vision, which
Sure.
and I said, "Yeah, let's do this." And that's how I ended up at Data Robot.
Hmm, nice. That's a wild story. I think everybody that worked there has some kind of a story like that. At the end of the day, it's all about who you know and how you network and all that sort of thing.
And, being, yeah, there's luck, but also luck meeting opportunity, and of course, if I was a complete idiot, he'd say, "Oh yeah, well, hey, it was nice meeting you," and okay, I'm not talking to this guy, and so, um, I mean, it was a great time. Then, of course, I worked with you on various COVID projects, and you were forming that solutions. I mean, I thought things were really going well. That's another life lesson too. No matter, like, here I am working directly for the CEO, thinking I'm about as that's about as much of a made man as you can get in an organization, and well, look what happened. All good.
Yeah, that's a topic for another podcast. They could make a movie out of the story of DataRobot, I'm telling you.
It's funny, and I'm sitting there watching this thing, like, I saw, like, a guy whose name I will never repeat, who ends up succeeding him, and I saw him in a picture where, like, "Really? This guy's getting money now? Like, this guy? This is who we're giving money to?"
Moving right along. So what do you got going on now? What are you working on these days?
So, yeah, so after that, I kinda went back, and so, one thing I did, which I had no intention of going back to the agency. I went back to the agency just because I was in the Signal chat. A bunch of guys said, "Hey, can you do some AI stuff to help us?" And I kind of worked some folks. We created an app that helped people get around obstacles and checkpoints to get to the airport or where they had to get to. Like, maybe I'll come back for a bit. And so I got in this. I was in this office where I was actually helping to leading an effort to bring AI to the organization. And then, when they offered the early retirement, oh, sweet, I get my retirement points, and now I can leave, and because what I've been doing in parallel to that, as I was going in parallel to me going back, I started working on what is Science Cella, our health tech company. I had cancer in 2019, and it was helping cancer
That's what you're doing now, Science.
so
Gotcha.
I do 2 things. So, Science Cell is the primary thing. Adventure and Leadership, I still carve some time out for that as a kids program. We have our junior special forces camp, get the kids out in the woods, rappelling, zip lining, all tied to scenario activities and that kind of thing. One of my buddies, Dave Merrill, helps me out with that, a West Point grad. He learned tracking from a native Apache tracker person. So we kind of put our skills together. We even do AI for the course. Well, hey kids, build an improvised shelter with these materials. Now let's take a picture and ask AI to critique it. Now let's give AI the materials and ask AI to like the steps to build a shelter. Now let's compare and contrast. So it's a fun way in a traditionally outdoor environment to tie in AI. Or like, okay, you're making a go bag, a mercy bag. Let's ask AI to critique your bag. Ask for suggestions what you have in there, type of thing. So it's like we expose them, but it's at its core an outdoor program, map and compass work, and all the other fun stuff and kids like that. But Science Cella started because when I had cancer. And I was freaked out. I had 3-month wait to see a dietitian because I found out there's only one of them for every 2,300 patients, and sort of a financial problem. 80 cancer patients, 80% of them experience malnutrition, and that costs about 15.5 billion in annual unnecessary readmission cost.
Mm,
So I
just
wanted to create an application that's serving like me, the patient who like scared shitless and needs like what should I be doing diet wise? And how do I help a dietitian scale? And I use a lot of stuff we like DataRobot, a lot of the work we did when we were just talking to hospitals, trying to understand day in the life, which I thought was really, which is had I not had that experience, I would not have done things this way. I really liked how we were doing that. And I was part of that team that was we had just we had Nick Panos and I called it the transatlantic railroad type of concept because he was with the team that was starting with HHS Protect and building the pipes outward. I was with the team starting at hospitals and places we're testing and building it out that way. And so we like built our transcontinental railroad project.
mhm.
It was really cool, and, just by just really talking to people, and so I took that same thing, my co-founder spent 50 years at National Cancer Institute, we started talking to people, "What's a day in a life like? Let me know that," and so we had a couple iterations, and finally they said, "Yes, you have now built something we can use." Rachel Wong, dietitian at Georgetown MedStar Hospital, said, "This is the best app of this type I've seen."
What
So
does it do specifically?
so the first part of it is not unlike a MyFitnessPal. There's some differences. So you capture your food, text, image, voice, but then you get a customized risk score. So we could be eating the same thing, but have a different risk score. Because like with the cancer world, they might say, "Hey, Greg, we don't care if you eat McDonald's every day. Just keep your calories up." Hey, Tom, we need you to be more specific. We need your proteins to be here, your sugars to be here, your proteins to be here. And so we need all this stuff to balance
Sure.
out. So it's
Based
all
on the type of cancer that you have.
right.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then
Fascinating.
so the risk score, it tracks your symptoms and you get feedback how to alleviate those symptoms through diet. Okay, you got some nausea, do this, and that will alleviate that. The dietitians see everything. So in terms of all the micro and macronutrients that you're being tested on, it's you get blue for when you're in compliance with, red for anything you're not in compliance with. And they can track the risk scores over time. See who's in trouble. Oh, wait, Tom's in danger of falling off the wagon. Let me reach out to Tom, make sure he's on track. Hey man, we're gonna have to pull you off chemo if you don't get your stuff back up. So let's get you back on track.
Right.
And then we've got a, my next step is to integrate the large language model into the app proper, but I got a large language model on the website, which we went through a RAG process and basically just says, okay, well, I got prostate cancer. Give me a diet for that. It'll give you a meal plan. And I actually used that to shrink my prostate. I had a prostate cancer scare 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago. And like, oh crap, I don't need this right now. Doc's like, well, actually, you're good, not cancer. We tested a few times, but your prostate is enlarged a bit. So you know, okay. So I just, hey, give me a diet, and I'd like to see it make it work on. And then after I came back, my prostate had shrank. Like, so I didn't have cancer, but I shrank my prostate with a diet. Like, okay, that's pretty cool.
Wow, that is pretty cool.
I can
So
sleep
they
in
have
here.
it allows you to identify symptoms and then gives you the specific diet to sort of treat those symptoms?
Yes.
Hmm. So if somebody's, say, having trouble sleeping or feeling anxious or something like that, your app will say, "Well, eat more green beans and eat less, cottage cheese," or whatever. Really? That's amazing. I love that.
What we're trying to do now is we got a couple of integrations we're trying to do, like make it like so I can actually as you're doing as it's tracking, like, hey, like, hey, you're trending this way. Let's get you back on, like, so more proactively ping you and saying like, okay, guess what? You're eating a lot. All right, Tom, this is your third bourbon in a row. Maybe how about doing a night tonight with no bourbon? How about do that? That's a
Yeah. What kind of bourbon are we drinking?
1796. I've never heard of this brand. Someone gave it to me. I've got some Glenfiddich.
Okay, that's Scotch.
And I got bourbon and scotch, and the connoisseurs will kill me because I use the wrong terms all the time. But
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of gatekeeping that goes on in that space. Would you
yeah,
guys ought to try something called Brooklotic? It's in a bright blue bottle. It's, Harrison Ford's favorite Scotch,
wait, I think I got something in a blue bottle. I wonder if that's what I have.
like opaque, kind of neon blue
Yeah,
almost. I love that stuff. That's really
yeah.
good. So
So I
anyway,
don't know much. I just know like, oh, this is like okay, that tastes good, and I got it for it's a gift. Delicious.
or it tastes minimally bad, whatever. It's funny. Nobody ever has their first drink of Scotch and goes, "Wow, that's delicious."
Actually, I mean, I should say no, I didn't. I was about to say I did, but no, I didn't because my first bourbon was actually as part of a mint julep. So when you make it like a mixed drink, it's of course anything can taste good when it's mixed.
Yeah, put enough sugar in something, it'll it tastes good. Okay, sorry, a diversion there. So Sciencella, so where are you guys at in terms of, like, your app? Is it out there? Can people download
Yep,
it?
the app, you can download it off the App Store today.
Yeah,
There's a few things I'm not happy with, but I think I mean, I'm not sure, but I mean, what's nice, I had there's a friend of mine who's a cancer patient, he's been using it for a year now because it's a great way for him to keep him up to date on things.
mhm.
But, there's some things I don't like anything else, like, maybe I feel like it's made my inner George Lucas where I always wanna tinker with things, but, and it's also like part of it is I know the vision I have in my head for the app, and it's not there yet because obviously, money and resources is a reality, and so I am trying to raise
You guys
money.
have you guys raised it all?
We have not. Well, we've been raising slowly. We've been raising on a safe note. My initial thing was I got an initial grant, from a friend who was able to basically give me the cost to actually and not to put it on my cap table, but to actually build the initial app. So I got that.
Yeah,
Now we've
yeah,
got it built, and now we've got, the VA Palo Alto Center wants to do a clinical trial, and they want to do that. So now we're raising money for that trial, so that
mhm,
there's a thing there. Uh,
yeah,
I'm thinking about doing as this poor man trial, if you will, on a shoestring budget where I'll get like 45 military veterans with cancer and say, "Hey guys, we're gonna do this trial. I got some statisticians from Johns Hopkins," and just show that this stuff works. I think what I've noticed here is despite the rhetoric coming from HHS top level folks, I don't think there seems to be an embracement of fully embracing the concept of food as medicine. And like they have money for the grants, but one guy made a point at a cancer symposium I was at, they're not even giving away the grants. Like, I applied for a grant, I got rejected. So did you even
yeah,
see my grant? Is no, we didn't even see it. So there's some gatekeepers there somewhere who are looking at things. But like I got my like the doctor and he got a grant rejected, but he believes in this. And I met a lung cancer doctor who's like, I think there's something here. So we're getting the traction. It's just a matter of just finding the place to actually do the trial. And I'm looking from the UVA. They're reviewing it. They may not even charge me, so that would be nice if I get it. Basically, just want to be able to take a clinical setting and show that this thing works. Then I think that's a lot of validation. I got a lot of investors who I've talked to said, "Hey, come back to me after the trial." I said, "Well, I need money for the trial because that's not cheap either." So
yeah.
it's like horse in
Well,
the cart.
It seems like you're definitely swimming uphill though, right? There's a lot of politics in that whole food industry, huh?
Oh, there is, and part of my frustration. I mean, look, look, that's just life, right? So I can't cry over spilled milk. But I'll look at guys. You always hear about the people who just write something on a cocktail napkin, they get money, or you look at somebody else, or like, okay, that guy was a criminal, but he's getting money, because he raised money before. Okay, but that's just life. So I mean, I'm just going to keep plugging away. You only lose if you give up.
Yeah, the VC space is really different today than it was back in, 2000, 2010, 2011, back when DataRobot was a going concern kind of thing.
Yeah, and also the angel market's way tapped out because a lot of the angels have given out their money, but those things haven't transitioned to something else yet. So now their money's still tied up. So I've met a lot of angels. So I mean, I get a lot of people like going, "Hey, keep me informed, keep me updated." I mean, so it's not a hard no. And there's guys who are showing interest, and I occasionally have some people going like, I had a VC come back like, "Hey, you're still too early stage, but I just want to see how you're doing, this and that," and like, "Hey, maybe we can help you up some AWS credits, something like that." So like, I mean, there's help coming,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
maybe not fast enough for my taste, but it's progress. And that's
Yeah,
my thing.
it's a grind. It's a grind
Yeah,
to be sure.
and
Uh,
my goal is every day I make something to say, "Yes, I made a difference today." That's
Now,
like
do you see Sciencella as a tool that's used by physicians to actually treat their patients and fund and paid for, like your revenues coming from like insurers? Or is it more of a consumer tool where folks are signing up and saying, "Hey, I want to use this to improve various aspects of my health,
so
and maybe I can share it with my doctor, or maybe not," kind of thing?
so how I started it was a B2B enterprise going to the hospitals with a hospital and talked to my advisors at Novashar Cancer Institute, who've been fantastic. They said, "Yes, hospitals pay for this stuff." And what I've been running into in the sales thing is I'll use the big Pentagon, and big Pentagon's got a bucket of money. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Space Force are all begging for a piece of this action. They all want this money somehow. And they say, okay, we want this money. Okay. Then then they say, "Oh, well, we want the money." But they ask, so when the oncology team at Georgetown MedStar says, "We want this thing," they go, "Have they done a trial yet?" "No." "Oh, okay, easy out." So, like, we've got a bunch of places saying, "Hey, if you do a trial, we will be buyers of this thing." So now I'm thinking, how do I get traction? And there's a version of me going, what if I could go to cancer patients, do some kind of a study, maybe modify it so they can actually email and share their doctors. They can keep the doctor updated what's going on. And
Huh?
then it's kind of more of a B2C thing, but I get some traction that might get people to say, "Oh, wow, the normal prostate cancer population, they get readmitted to the hospital this many times in a 6-month period. Your group were something less than that. You show that these people are using, these people stayed with your app for like 85% of the time they stayed with the app. That's and the dietitians say it saved them this much time, or this that might be something I do to show traction to then go to get hospitals to rethink this. Go, maybe we should take a shot at this. Uh, but that's really so now it's like I said that like how many hospitals like, and that's the founder's dilemma, right? In terms of like how many hospitals I keep knocking on, or maybe I do try to do something, put it in the hands of cancer patients and say, "Look, this is going to help you, and I've created a function to share it with your doctor." That way,
Sure.
you got some communication there. So there is something. There is
Kind of crowdsource it, go direct to consumer kind of situation.
and if nothing else, just give me some feedback on what they think of this application, right? Because you get people using it at scale. I've gotten some great feedback that's been incorporated into the app as I've modified it. But I think really just getting it out there and let people say, "Yep, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, and this and that type of thing." And so that I think is really something. So I might just have to go down that route just to get some traction, get some feedback, and even validate it. Because if I can showcase people saying, "Yeah, here's my results. Here's what I'm doing. Here's how it's made me. This was me before the app. This is me after the app." That's still a good story to tell.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Hmm. Well, that's fantastic. Um, so you're out in the App Store, the iPhone App Store?
Yes, not the Google Play Store yet. I'm in the process of I got in the penalty box with Google, so I'm doing my stuff to get out of the penalty box. I'm gonna put it back in Google,
See. Yeah, it's crazy how they gatekeep the, access to the store. You gotta jump through all the right hoops to get on there.
which is funny. Most people tell me, "Dude, that's surprising. Usually Apple's the harder one to deal with."
Yeah, no, absolutely. Hmm.
I think it was
But
something I think I got in my spam, something I was supposed some box I was supposed to check, and because I didn't do that, they said, "Oh, because you didn't check this box, we're gonna suspend your account." Like, really? Like, I mean, I just missed it. Can I just, it's your system. I'm using a Gmail-based system, and it went to my spam box. I mean, come on, dude.
Yeah, I know that checks out. The, I imagine there's some pretty significant, like, privacy concerns and stuff that you have to worry about in terms of, like, the health data.
Yeah, now right now I'm in the clear because, like, all I see is whatever username you try to if you wanna call yourself Kermit the Frog, you can be Kermit the Frog for all I care.
Gotcha.
And then
No
just see what food you're eating. So, like, so we're in the clear at that point. It says as I look for other things I wanna integrate in future versions of the application, then we start getting into those things. As we start integrating wearables and stuff like that, which we have the pathway to do that, that's just gonna be another I'm trying to take on not too many nightmares at once.
yeah. How have the large language models impacted the way you're approaching this? Because they're amazing at writing code, and they give good advice sometimes, but how have you incorporated them into this
I
whole
mean, it was funny. I actually, made some updates myself to the app. Just, "Hey, I wanna do this and this," and like, "Oh, wow, that worked pretty good."
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I've been using, more of the Google ecosystem. I mean, everyone's been talking about Codex lately. I might just give that a run for it. Um,
Zerf, you gotta try Zerf.
I'll
It's
try
not
Xer.
building iPhone apps, but it is more for, like, analyzing data and, working with, like, once you've collected data from your patients, really trying to understand, what's going
But
on.
that's gonna be critical that's something once we use it, that's something like that's gonna be very powerful because I wanna analyze these trends. And one thing
Yeah,
I wanna figure out is like, how can I keep privacy while at the same time taking like general trends by saying, okay, like I just know you are a cancer patient of this type and you had these results. And I can hey, look, we have these, I don't have to necessarily say who you are, where you are, what they're getting. I'm just showing some type of thing. Maybe we're doing something with zip code just so we can showcase areas like that because sometimes obviously geography has an impact on your healthcare, so we can just sort of see how that's tracking as people's zip codes are in there. But yeah, but I think that'd be very powerful to analyze a lot of stuff once as we start really, especially we start getting a lot of traction and we start getting into actual hospitals and stuff like that.
hmm. Well, that is fascinating. I love that. I think My Fitness Pal used to be a really good app,
Mhm.
and it got acquired by
Got acquired by Foot Locker initially at one point. Then Foot Locker sold it off to somebody else.
yeah, whoever owns it now has made it all the useful features paid features, so it's way less useful at this point.
Well, and that's kinda why I wanna make it, like, more of the B2B model because I can charge the hospital, not necessarily charge the patient, and so, like, because the thing is, it's that dilemma because MyFitnessPal is a direct consumer application, so they have to make money somehow, and I'm either making money by selling your data or I'm making money by charging you features.
Yeah, totally. And you prefer the B2B approach?
I do, but at the
Yeah,
same time, if I mean, like, here's the thing, I mean, one thing though, it's like, at some point, cancer patients, they'll take anything that gives them an edge to stay alive, so to speak, so, I mean, like, I think if I've gotta charge to you know, make some money. I mean, and I'm charging, let's say I charge $25 a month. I certainly be paying that as a cancer patient if I felt like that was going to give me an edge fighting cancer.
yeah,
So I think,
100%.
and at the end of the day, when you compare to other things you'd be spending money on, it's not that big a deal. So I think that's probably the direction where I might have to find myself going, at least in some kind of short term, just as I want to try to validate the app results that it does help people through cancer outcomes, and we can measure that and showcase that and publish that. That might be where I have to go if I just can't get the right hospital to partner, or if it's taking too long to raise the clinical trial. Otherwise, I'm sitting here. I don't want to be at the same point a year from now where I'm still just hoping some trial is going to land somewhere.
Yeah, totally, totally. Hmm. Well, what's next? I know you need to you got your trial cooking or starting to preheating, I suppose.
Yes.
You're looking for funding and stuff like that. What's on the horizon for you guys?
Well, yeah, raising money. I actually got into. I was in the PenFed program last year. PenFed has a foundation for all those who are listening who might be military veterans. PenFed Foundation for Heroes. They put together a program that's kind of like a Y Combinator or a TechStars, but for military veterans. And the difference is they don't take any equity out of your company. And so they have all these resources. You go through the program, then you have a coach the whole time who kind of helps you in that type of thing. And so I've got one of the coaches there who's been really a big help, and he really believes in what I'm doing, and his life got impact his family life got impacted by cancer. So now he's even more vested in trying to help me succeed because he believes that I provide a missing piece to that. So he's been very helpful making some contacts. I've got another company, another startup. They're doing something different, but they've already got a green light for their clinical trial. They're trying to see if they can add my stuff into their clinical trial. Hey, look, we got this other guy who does something else. This will also benefit patients. So that might
Right.
be a way I can do. So I'm having a follow up conversation with them next week. And so, yeah, basically, it's knocking on doors to raise money, knocking on doors to keep trying to sell because there might be a hospital that says, you know what, we'll take a chance on you. We'll do this, or even smaller concierge medical services, something. But just trying to raise money, trying to do sales, and then uh, making the apps, making modifications to the app without trying to kill my cost at this point. But at least thinking like, hey, this is something you do now. This is something we have to do when we get some money, and just sort of like
Yeah.
figuring all that stuff out.
Well, it'll be great to see some research done in this area. Food as medicine is controversial, I suppose, and kind of new, and there's a lot of sort of speculation out there. So I'm really interested in seeing what kind of data you can collect and how you can sort of evaluate what's true and what's myth and what's
Yeah.
not.
Well, it's interesting because, like, so when I'll give you some interesting data point is what we don't really do in America very well is nuance. So, when I had testicular cancer and I came in there and, I was worried a little bit. I said to my doctor, "Hey, do I have to worry about anything?" He said, "Listen, dude, this is not birth control. You'll be fine. But if you're concerned, I'm gonna tell you what I tell my patients who ask me for the little blue pill. Eat more steak first." Wait, doc, you're the first doctor in my life who told me eat more steak. Okay. We tell Americans don't eat steak because you eat processed meat and you don't eat vegetables. But the truth is, if you eat organic meat or regeneratively grown meat and you're eating 2 cups of green vegetables every serving of steak, you can have steak for every meal. So, me, challenge accepted, I went on a breakfast, lunch, and dinner steak diet for 6 months. Nothing like no, nothing on my cholesterol, all my blood, everything was great. It's like, so like, I think the challenge for healthcare is we say things. Now, here's an interesting statistic for you too. How many smokers do you think get lung cancer? Percentage of population, roughly?
30%.
13.
13. Okay.
Now, based on rhetoric, I would think like you like the first time you light up a cigarette, you're in lung cancer city. Now, that said, 85% of lung cancer patients or lung cancer patients are smokers, but
Right.
13%. Whereas, like, okay. And so I think I think a lot of this is there's a lot of things we tell people, like, I think there's a lot of parallels to the security industry and the medical industry where we have this save everybody approach. And I had, and I think one of the interesting things is I had an interesting discussion with RFK Jr.'s sister, who thought my whole thing was elitist because not everybody can afford healthy food. And so I said, well, okay, a few things to consider. If I can prove healthy food improves health outcomes, what does that do? That's a shot of the arm for everybody that's trying to solve food deserts and everything else like that. Because if I'm actually proving this stuff has
Right.
medical impact, now all kinds of funding and resources come available to actually reinforce that success. And
Well, I don't agree that healthy food is more expensive than shitty food. I mean,
well,
you can go to the produce aisle and buy, you know,
yes,
10 pounds of potatoes for like $3, you
yeah, you
know?
could buy. I don't, the carrots, the lettuce, the green vegetables. Yes, I think people look at like food and they're thinking like organic meat. Okay, but like there's way like. But I tell people one thing you do is like if to make your ground beef dollar go further and be healthier, I'll take some asparagus, mushrooms, chop them up nice and fine along with some onions, and mix that with my ground beef. So now I'm using less ground beef per burger, but so at least so my ground beef goes further per my dollar, and it's just adds a little bit more variety and taste to the burger, has more of a concept there. So I think there's always ways, but the thing is, we say anything, but like we talk about even food deserts. There are Walmarts. Like I mean, I've been to some crappy places in America, and there's a Walmart nearby. You can, yeah, maybe you can't walk to it, but you can get to a Walmart. There are places to go to, and but I think there's a couple of there's I think right now we live in an age where in the medical well if we can't do it for everybody then we can't do it for anybody type of thing, which I think that's kind of the wrong approach. And then the other thing of it is because Trump said it, therefore it's bad. It's like I can. What's wrong with disagreeing with somebody on 98% of the things and saying, but hey, on these 2% things we agree with, let's work together on that. And so, you know, RFK is saying it, and I think part of the thing which has this healthy food, it gets kind of conflated because a lot of these people on the RFK bandwagon are like anti-vaccine, anti-real medicine. Yet I'll tell people that's not me. When I had a kidney stone, you couldn't get that morphine in my body fast enough. Like, give me the morphine, doc. And yes, morphine bliss. So yes, I believe in real medicine. Like well, I shouldn't say real medicine. Like it's a collective approach. You need pills for things, and there are pills that I've had pills that I certainly love. Um, when I was at Special Forces Selection course, I was basically taking Motrin like it was candy. I don't know. I'm sure there's all kinds of long-term effects that will come back and haunt me at some point. But, you know, but food's a piece that is important, and we need to like we think it's good. There was no been actual study. It's like, it was funny. I applied for a grant. They said there's no evidence food is medicine. Right. We have a hypothesis. That's why I want to do the trial to showcase that yes, it is. Or it may come back and say, yeah, it doesn't do jack. I mean,
Yeah.
that's always a possibility. But
Yeah.
let's at least have something definitive that says one way or the other what it does or does not do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think everyone can agree that there's certain aspects of what you put in the engine does impact you.
It would be shocking if it didn't.
Yeah. Well, exactly.
Yeah. It would be shocking if it didn't. Well, Tom, this has been really fun. I'm really excited to see where you end up with this. I hope that the trial gets going, and when it does, shoot me a note and we'll figure out a way to get the analysis in Deserve so you can get some results shown.
No, that'd be
We'll get you
fantastic. I love
some
that.
free credits and some data science consulting and stuff like that for free. Get you on the map.
Hey, no, thanks. I really appreciate that. That's why I started learning about the startup world. It's really like more working together to build teams. So like I do a thing well, you do a thing well, this other, and then like how do we, like rather than me trying to do it myself, who knows how to do something and that can make me more valuable where I didn't necessarily have to do the work necessarily.
Well, fewer and fewer people know how to do things these days. It's just people learning how to write prompts at this point. So
Well, yeah, that's true. But even then, there's still a mentality I think where someone has to like where I think us as humans, we feel like if I'm starting a company, I have to have everything figured out as opposed to I figured out a piece. It's okay to go to another company that does another piece and seeing how we work together as opposed to me trying to do everything.
yeah, awesome. All right, Tom. Well, hey, thanks for taking the time. It's been really great to catch up.
Hey, likewise, Greg.